Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom. This is the recording number 119. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. Today we've got George and John and J-Rod and John and Luff and Mike and Phil is back and Dewan, Steve, Alan, Dennis, Vlad, Garth, Chris Walker, other people. And let's talk about slot cars. Let's start off with show and tell. If you have a show and tell, raise your virtual hand so I don't forget to call on you. I have a show and tell that I'll share later. Looks like Alan and Brian and Dennis are ready to go. Alan, I thought I saw you up first, so go ahead and start off. Oh, you're still muted. There you go.
Always get caught on that.
Yeah.
A while ago, I was asking for those special screws that are used in some of the pods. And why I didn't check this before, at least in the United States, McMaster's and Carr, an outstanding outlet. And the secret to it is they've got all size screws, whether it's SAE or metric. And when you take a look at it, it's called full thread or partial thread. That was the magic key to getting what I needed.
So you found that McMaster Carr sells the right diameter, the right length, the right kind of flathead drive screw, partial thread. They had it.
All kinds of heads, different types of heads, full thread, partial thread, and they start, as far as metric is concerned, 2.5 on up.
Alan, can you add that to the chat?
McMaster Carr, yeah. I mean, I'll try to put it in the description. In the
Great.
Video. It's a very well known, hardware supplier. I'm surprised you hadn't checked that, but I'm also surprised that we hadn't mentioned to check that before.
Yeah,
but how much does it cost to get a pack of them?
Well, I got a 10-pack of what I needed for $8, and they charged me a whole $1.20 for shipping.
Yeah, so you're still about $1 a screw.
Yeah, but I got, it is what it is. I just wanted to try it out, and then I'll go from there for more. But why I didn't think of it before, I just, senior moment or whatever, because I've used those people before with a lot of stuff.
It's possible we didn't suggest it because that's kind of the price I expected you to get. Yeah. That wasn't the price that you initially were suggesting that you wanted to get it at. And this was a subject that I was going to bring up, and it's unfortunate that Alan Wilkinson isn't here. I don't see him in the list. But on Slot Forum, under your topic where this was being discussed on Slot Forum, he suggested once you can special order like the exact screw you want from the companies that make them. But in order to make that viable, you have to order a lot of them. And so he presented the idea of a group buy. How many people would be interested in 100 screws or whatever the case may be. So I don't know. Your search is over, but I mean, there's still people out there that want a good deal on pod screws without having to pay $1 a screw. So I don't know. Maybe that's something for people to think about. How would you be willing to buy 100 screws to go in on a group buy? And who would want to head up the group buy? Because that's a commitment. Because the person heading up the group buy is the one who places the order, ensures quality and accuracy, and then splits it all up to ship out to people. And you're on the hook for any that people don't pay you for. That's a risky proposition, but some people are willing to do it.
That $1 a screw sounds reasonable now.
Yup. And that's why it's $1 a screw, because McMaster Carr got, hundreds of thousands from China or whatever, and they're the ones splitting it up into packs of 10, just like NSR,
Actually, it does. I can't remember what the cost was, but they'll do quantities. They also have 100 packs.
Yeah, and the price per screw will go down the more you buy.
And it does considerably, so it's more comfortable. But I just wanted to share the source with everybody, and the fact that at least with McMaster Carr, the terminology is full thread, partial thread.
out of curiosity, was the partial thread the diameter of was it the inside diameter of the thread or the outside diameter of the thread?
It looks like they didn't have that in the chart, but it's by the pictures, it certainly looked like the outside.
Okay.
Well, the thread pitch will determine the outside diameter of the threaded portion. The question is whether the shank is the same diameter or narrower, isn't it?
That's what I was asking. I think Alan understood what I was asking, and I think his response means that the smooth shank is the same as the outer diameter of the thread.
I also seen them listed as like with shoulder or without shoulder is another term they use too on those.
Well, when I looked at McMaster Carr,
That may be different with McMaster Car, I'm saying, but I'm just saying I've looked it up with other stuff. But.
Their terminology for shoulder makes that area that doesn't have thread is much larger in diameter than what the thread is.
I just checked at Slot Car Corner, and they have partial thread screws, a whole bunch of different sizes with Nylock nuts, 4 screws, 4 nuts, $2.79.
And what kind of head is on the top of those?
Well, this one's a Phillips head, which is much cheaper than the straight.
Yeah, and Alan's use case is very specific. He needs that really thin, flat head that those ones had. Yeah, that's what made it harder. I remember last time we talked about this, we found examples that had the different heads.
Chris, was that a 2.2, a 2 millimeter, or a 2.5?
They have 2 or 3 different sizes.
Because the downside of what Alan's found is that it's 2.5, and that's quite a large diameter, I feel, for some of the slot car use. I personally use some M2.
I think he's doing his own project.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've beat that topic into the ground, and we're ready to move on. I think I saw Brian's name pop up next, so go ahead, Mr. Giprich, and show us what you got.
All right, it was Slot Car Show weekend again here in St. Louis, so we picked up a few new ones. New NSR. First one I've ever had with the drop arm. I just put some tape on it to keep it in place for now.
Should have screw.
Yeah, there's a place for it. It did not come with the screw.
Oh.
And I just haven't dug one out yet, so I just threw some tape on there to keep it from flopping around. Car's wickedly fast.
Yep.
Tires are good. It seems to run real well.
If you need to know where to get a screw, ask Alan.
McMaster Car.
I was just going to go to McMaster Car is all I was going to do. Another NSR 917.
Yeah.
Again.
Stucky.
Sidewinder. Not quite the haul of last time. And then.
Yeah, just don't tell us how much you paid. We don't want to know.
The NSRs were $50.
Yeah.
This slot it was 45. They were all brand new.
Yeah.
I wanted to slot it as a running mate to go with this one.
Of course.
Oh, that's great.
If it can't be blue and yellow, at least you've got blue and yellow.
Yeah. So that was it. It was a pretty nice show. I did meet some people. I actually found 2 guys within 15 minutes. One of them was within 5.
Nice.
So
what show was this?
this is they call it the St. Louis Slot Car Show. It's every 4 months. They have it in November, March, and August. So it's the same one I went to last time that I got all the cars for $5.
Wow.
It's just a reoccurring thing. They have it 3 times a year.
St. Louis really got it made with a slot car show for 3 times a year. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's not huge. It's a lot of HO and it's also a lot of Hot Wheels. So it's kind of a combined show.
Sure.
But, I mean, there's good deals to be had. This one guy that I bought these from, and I bought a few from him the last time. He bought out like several collections. I bet he had 200 cars there. And his wife says, this isn't even close to all of it. He said, she said, if you're willing, if you want to call, he'll even do a one-on-one where you can come over and look through the stuff. And the problem that is I probably have to take out a second mortgage. But, there's some neat stuff there. You'll run into some classics. There's always some old vintage stuff. There was a guy there selling, and he had a fair amount of it, Scale Electric's classic track for $1 a piece. And it was in great shape. I mean, I don't run classic, I run sport. but it was there. So it's worth the trip. You know, it's $5 to get in. If you want to get an early bird, it's 10. But it's, yeah, you know, it's on Sundays. It's one day. It runs from like 8 to 1. So it's not an all day event or anything. And, you know, meet some people, buy some cars.
How many vendors are there?
I would be willing to bet there was probably all told 50 or so. My son took some pictures. I didn't think to have them forwarded to me to show you, but
How many wives were doing the marketing? That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
actually, you'd be surprised. There are quite a few wives there with the guys that sell stuff. But it's
You're happy to
always
see it get sold rather than bought.
yeah. So, I mean, I think it's always I've missed a few. You know, during COVID, a lot of them got canceled due to the mask mandates and
Mustard
shut
and
down.
relish. There you go.
They had all 3 of them this year, so and they'll have it again in November.
That's cool. I mean, I'm in the Seattle metro area. We've got a lot of slot cars happening, you know, of all scales. But as far as I know, there's no swap meets that include slot cars, which is annoying.
Like he said, there's a lot of Hot Wheels and die-cast stuff, but if you're lucky to find slot car stuff, it's kind of like a hit.
I mean, maybe I should go look for a Hot Wheels based swap meet, and some guy will have slot cars.
Sometimes, and then they may not know what the hell they have anyway. It's possible because they're more into the die-cast, and you know.
Yeah, they bought out somebody's lot.
I was going to say die-cast and RC shows.
Yeah.
Another place that I found in the past.
Well, they also had guys selling model kits. I would say 35% was slot car, maybe 40%, and Hot Wheels.
Really?
And model kits
That's
and-
pretty good, actually.
and
Yeah, so you're
stuff
talking
like
about
that.
20,
Hands.
talking about 20, 25 vendors of slot cars. So 3 or 4 probably had 132nd stuff.
I say it's a winner. You made out good with those cars. Those are
For
nice
sure.
cars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and well, that guy had he had a whole bunch of Ninco Classics.
Yeah.
His NSRs he sells for 55 a piece, 2 for 100. Slotted vary between 45 and say 55. He had Revels, he had MRCs, he had a bunch of classic stuff in cases, their vintage stuff. He even had some pink car. He had a lot of Carrera 124 scale stuff. I guess he bought out several collections.
Yeah, I mean, that'll do it.
I mean, he's nothing like the guy who was on a couple shows ago who walked us through his house.
Oh, Jim, yeah.
He's not bringing that, but I mean, their show's kind of small. They charge $20 a table. So think of it as a slot car Hot Wheels flea market is probably better description than show, if
Yeah,
you
but
will.
still, yeah.
but-
Anything like that.
If you Google St. Louis Slot Car Show, they have a Facebook page and you can get some idea of what they look like. They do have some pictures up there. But I mean, it's always worth the trip. I mean, it's if I can buy NSR cars for 50, 55 bucks a pop, you know, with the prices of things today. There was one group there, and I bought from this guy before. As a matter of fact, I bought that blue GT40 from him before. He had cars, they were used, but there's IROC series cars. So he had like bags of 5 scale electric Mustangs, all good to go, all run fine, all had aftermarket tires, maybe a little beat up, but he had a bag of 5 for 100.
Nice.
You know, an all run. And he had the sideways Rileys. He had a bag of 5 of those. Same thing, $100. So, you know, if you were looking to do an IROC series, you know, this is one they ran before. And I mean, when I say they were a little beat up, I don't mean they were cracked and broken. You know, it may be missing a mirror, maybe missing a bumper.
Yeah.
But I mean, the bodies weren't broken. They had glass in them. They all ran. They all had aftermarket tires. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things there. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for the show and tell on the show report. And I'm now jealous and want to move to St. Louis, but let's move on to our next show and teller. Dennis, go ahead.
Okay, just change over my camera quickly. There we go. I've been doing a bit of painting lately. I got myself a white kit of the new slotted 512 Ferrari.
You know, no, red sports car.
And so I didn't want the first red one that came out because the livery meant nothing to me. But this is the livery from the 9-hour at Kyalami in 1970, which I actually was present. So I saw this car run. And so I got the white kit and did that. It's a really, really nice car. It's the standard slotted stuff, right? It does nothing different. I put a set of N22s on the rear, and other than that, I've done nothing, and it runs really, really well. Easily as good as any of the other classic cars in that series from slotted. So that's one, and then the other one, just so that
Before you move on, I have a question.
Yeah.
On that car, how tight do you put the body to the chassis when you're running it?
Probably the screws will be half a turn, maybe 3/4 of a turn loose.
Okay,
But I always run the bodies quite loose and the pod just loose enough that it will move,
okay,
but
okay,
nothing more than that.
cool.
But that depends on the track as well.
Sure.
You know, some tracks you can get away with that little movement. Other tracks you might need a bit more.
John, are you running plastic track?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got Carrera.
And I find those NSRs tend to run, I run Scale Electric Sport, that they like the pod fairly tight on mine. I find if I get loose in the sideways cars too, I get a lot of scraping.
Well, that's why I was asking, because there's been in our club and our running around here some, I don't know, arguments about should it be loose, should it be tight. And I ran numbers, and I was faster on tight cars on my tracks on the two Carrera track. But when we took it to a commercial track, it had to be loose. I don't know why. And maybe it's
You
the way the
guys,
tires
when you-
gripped or didn't grip, or
When you're running at home or you're running with magnets,
Yes.
we did it both ways. We have poly cars with magnets and non-magnets. They were our test bed. And it seemed not to make a difference with the magnets.
because definitely, Brian, if you've got magnets in and you've got a loose pod, yes, you're going to scrape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
I'll crack them loose, but I'm not a turnout on the pods. I'm a quarter turnout on the pod, and the body screws are just barely tight type thing.
Right.
If I go looser on the pod, it's going to scrape. That's just the way it is. So I find on my plastic track with magnets, tight chassis and the pod with just a tiny little bit of movement. I'm sorry, tight body, semi-tight body with just the tiniest bit of movement in the pod. It seems to work best for me.
If you're going to use magnets on NSR cars, get the stiffer chassis, the green chassis. It makes a big difference.
Well, what I did, I found that 917 had the thickest 8mm round magnet I've ever seen it. And I bet it was at least 6mm tall. I mean, they're usually thicker, pretty thick to begin with. I printed 1/2 mil shims on my 3DM. So I actually have them shimmed up about 1 mil off of what they would be from the factory. And that gives me a much better, otherwise it's just literally glued to the track. And I don't want that. You have to be, to me, I want it, if I overdrive it, I want it to come out. I don't want it to just come loose and all of a sudden it's a missile. I would rather have it these slots. So I tend to tune the magnets, even though I am running magnets. Even on the cars I make myself, I'll move them up and down in that slot. And my test is, if I'm running with no brakes, that car better coast 2/3 of the way through a corner after my long straightaway. If I'm running no brakes and I let go and that thing stops immediately, that's too much freaking brake. And these NSRs, even with that magnet shimmed up a full millimeter, I can't run more than 2, maybe 3 o'clock on the SC2 on the brakes, or it's too much.
We're getting pretty far out into the woods here. I think that might be worth circling back on later. Let's let Dennis go ahead and finish your show and tell there.
Okay, well, this was just another white kit that I had of the new Revo slot Alpha GTA. Again, done in a livery that I remember watching race in South Africa. This is a sweet little car. I tell you, they're small. If you can see that, it's a fairly small car. So
What brand did you say that was?
it's Revo slot.
It's a good looking car.
They The ones from the factory, the deliveries and the finish is really, really good. This one I did myself, so it has its issues, but what a lovely running
tires are
car.
you using?
They run very, very nice.
What tires are you using?
The stock tire.
The
Wow.
stock tire is great.
The stock tires work really well. I coated the front. The fronts and rears are the same tire, and I coated the fronts. I trued them all, coated the fronts, and the rears I've left as is, and they grip great. And the car slides a little, and it does all the things that you would expect a car to do. So I'm very happy.
Now you
All right.
coat the front to keep them from gripping at all, the left
Yeah,
slide.
so that the car doesn't chatter in the turns.
I got you.
That's
Yeah,
me.
if you have front tires with a lot of grip on a solid axle, then the outside wheel can't spin as fast as it needs to around a turn because the inside wheel is keeping it from turning. So by removing the grip, you're improving the performance. The other options are independently spinning front wheels, or raising the axle so only one wheel will touch, the outside wheel will touch on a turn. But yeah, generally you don't want the front wheels to be interfering with your performance. So if you've never coated the front wheels on any of your cars, you're about to have your mind blown. Just get some nail, the clear nail polish or just super glue and coat them, or just take the front tires off. Just run the car without front tires, and you will see, most likely you will see improvement, unless it's so much that the car just tips out, because they're useful for being kind of outriggers, but you don't want them to grip because of that whole spinning different speeds thing. Anyway, that's a whole tuning thing that we can talk about later. We've got some more show and tell to get through. Mr. Vlad, what would you like to show and tell today? Get you to unmute yourself there.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
You guys sort of wanted to see what sort of quality was like on some of the prints. So I hunted down a few pictures so you can have a bit of a look.
Yeah.
I'll just share. Okay. Can you guys see that?
Wow, is that an FDM print? That's a filament print?
Yeah, that's a filament print. That's one of Chappie's prints.
Wow.
So if I go through, that's the Porsche 917-20. So it had a really nice smooth body.
Now I can start to see the layer lines.
Yeah, it all depends on the initial file. If the file is really smooth, you're going to get a beautiful file.
It's also about lighting. If you no matter how awesome the layers are, if you catch the print in light that casts a shadow on the layers, then it looks terrible. But in real life, it looks great.
Correct.
Yeah, these look great.
And look, these are the layers I'd say like 0.05 of a mil vertical layers. I mean, that's where you can get to with an FDM printer. Again, this model is a little more angular, but I'd say that's done at maybe about a 0.1, or maybe not. Maybe just it's not a great model to start off with. I'll show you a really nice one though. Now this chap prints them vertical. He cuts them around here and he prints them vertically.
Yeah, that's another useful technique.
Yeah, that's another way, but I tried that myself a few times, but it didn't work. But I'll give you, here's a nice one. So again, these are all FDM. Again, depending on the model and depending on your settings. Now, these sort of little steps, you can feel them under your fingernails. They're really minute. And that's a
it looks
124.
It looks like that gray one, maybe some cooling issues on that printer.
There you go. There you go. So you can identify what may be an issue, what may not be an issue.
I mean, for
Straight
something.
away.
I'm sure Steve is sitting there going, "Oh yeah, I've seen that before."
Oh, Steve's prints are awesome. Because I've messed up all my emails, so I'm not getting all the pictures I want. Yeah, I'll show you this one. Like this is came out really nice, but it's a 0.1 layers.
Yeah.
So again, you go half the amount of layers, but the prints do take much longer. They'll take you close to 20 hours or 18 hours to get. But I know Steve definitely has a better setup. But before I go, I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think of? Let me have a look. Close that. Okay. So here's an Alfa Romeo. I was thinking about doing a set of these for NSR chassis
Oh, that'd be cool.
because one of the mods I found was the full grid of 1984. And we can extract all those cars and make them fit the chassis. So give you some variety instead of having the same bodies all the time. I thought maybe doing a bunch of these. You think anyone would be interested?
I think it's worth doing. Whether
Yeah,
you get a whole lot of uptake right away is, but the more options there are out there, the more people are going to say, "Oh, that's something that I can print, not just I wish I could print."
Yep. Oh, look, you go through the process of, what's this? You'll fix this up so it's like a plug and play there, and the same with the front, and the same with this sort of area. You'll have that all open for axles. But yeah, I was thinking about doing that, but I don't own I don't own one, so I have to buy one to measure one up, and it'll just put the attachment points the same for the NSR. You guys let me know if you're interested.
I mean, post it to some forums so you get a wider audience, but I
Yeah.
can't think of any reason why not. Especially if it fits if you can slap a ready to run chassis under that, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea to get it all right. Doesn't matter, adjust it, whatever it needs to be, but it'll fit exactly on the NSR chassis. Something to think about. Thank you very much.
Yeah, looks good. Thanks for sharing. All right, Neil, it's your turn.
All right, I just have two quick things, actually three quick things. Want to thank you, Greg.
You're welcome, sir.
They work out. They work great.
You know what? And I realized that because I had printed a bunch, and have gone through revisions, right? So the yellow one, I think, is the color of that one, has slots, right? But the red one doesn't. So if you wanted to, you could split them apart and mix and match. So they both have slots on at least one side.
Oh, okay.
That'll work if you wanted to do that. But for me, the holes are enough. I don't need the slots.
Yeah, I can pretty much see, how much is left. So,
in which case you should do one blue one and one yellow one, Greg.
Yeah, oh, I've done it. Don't worry about that.
I also got a couple more. I like regular street cars more than race cars. So,
yeah. Carreras, a lot of those. Yeah.
And
Oh, that's great.
And a Corvette. So that's all I got.
Good stuff. Carrera's made a lot of road cars.
Yeah, the problem is they're very expensive because they haven't made them lately. So
That's true. It's been a while.
find them. Yeah, if you find them, they're expensive.
Yeah.
They
Go
weren't
to
too
St.
bad.
Louis.
Move
Those
to
two
St. Louis.
companies,
All right. Thanks for sharing, Neil. And I think Wayne had his hand up, and then we'll get to Alan. Go ahead, Wayne.
Unmute myself there. I'm going to show you something I did on the technical side in preparation for the DiSCA endurance race we did last weekend.
All right. Let's keep it short.
Oh, it's only a quick one, but I've hit share screen, and the thing I've got, the viewer I've got open with the photograph isn't there. So what shall I do?
I don't know what device you're using it on, but
Laptop.
you should be able to hit share screen and then pick from any of your active programs, and then the last
good.
share screen button at the bottom of that.
I've got a whiteboard and an iPhone/iPad and the screen. So if I click the screen and share,
that should work.
Have you got a picture of a wheel on a balancing device?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so this is our usual ride. It's an NSR air system wheel, 17.3 diameter. It undergoes a little bit of modification. Primarily, I make it 9 millimeters wide instead of 10. It just fits the tire a little bit better that way. But I've got a magnet style balancer with a 332 axle in there. Obviously, we ream the hole to make it 332 and fit onto a slotted type axle. That's one mod. But I always find that they are heavy at the grub screw when the wheel is checked on the balancer after a race. So in the past, I've tried to balance with lead weights, and I've had completely assembled wheels and tires that are balanced as they go onto the car, but they always come off the car out of balance again. And I thought this time I would start at the beginning and balance the wheel before I even assembled it with the tire. And here it is with the grub screw at the bottom. And I'm now trying to find what's going to allow me to proceed to the next picture. And there it is. So I started the process with a good look at the grub screw, being as it's the part that's making the wheel out of balance, or it seems to be. And I measured one at 3.2 millimeters or nigh on. And so I look at the end of the tip, which is not a full face. It's got, I haven't got it quite in focus, but as you can see, it's a cup style tip. And I thought, well, that might be possible to improve on that with a flat tip anyhow. So I shortened the grub screw down to, as you can see, 2.5 millimeters, making it lighter and shorter, less distance from the center of rotation. And even when I'd done that and reassembled and checked, the grub screw was still the heavy part. So I began to drill the wheel. And that was the way that I eventually managed to achieve a balanced wheel before we began building up the wheel and tire. So I built the wheels and tires up. I gave them a little tickle on a truer and we raced them. And they've come off at the end of the race, and I can't actually tell you whether or not they're balanced yet because they haven't been back on the balancer. But if I get one,
why would you bore them out, Wayne?
no.
I think that was the only way he could come up with to offset the
weight out.
grub screw.
It's talking about why would you bore
out
the
wheel?
axles? Because the NSR wheel doesn't fit directly on the slotted axle.
Right.
That's why we had to pop a reamer through there to get it to fit on.
But you could actually use good 3/32 axles instead of the slotted stuff.
Hard.
Maybe that was part of the rule set.
Just a requirement of the axles that get used in the cars that we race. They do get ball raced, but I'm not sure whether they use the slotted ball race or not. Because I understand the slotted ball race doesn't fit readily on the slotted axle, does it?
No, because it's a proper 332.
Right.
The slotted axles are on the side.
Yeah. Well, we don't use an NSR axle, so I don't quite know how it's done, but I get asked to ream the wheels. And in with regard to car preparation, I've never actually built one for DiSCA racers. All I've taken responsibility for is prepping wheels and tires and inserts. That's become my role, and I've now done it for the team I'm usually racing with, and a new team the Viking team that I raced with at the weekend. So I just prepped 3 pairs of wheels, expecting to need to use possibly 2. But the 3rd one would have been useful to be able to try a few different things in practice. And we were using a flatted axle. So they fitted, I have a reamer, a 332 reamer, and it takes very, very little out of the wheel. And lo and behold, it fits.
I guess you
The other
don't,
thing that you can try it is Wayne is hollow grip.
A hollow grub screw. I was nervous as I was taking the tip off that I would end up with a hollow grub screw, or else a grub screw that my hex drive would go all the way through. But it didn't happen. I'm not nervous about going even further. I may try another pair or some more grub screws, I should say, and get them even shorter. Perhaps I won't even have to drill the hole in the. I can't actually see a set of circumstances where I don't have to drill a hole in the rim, but
maybe a smaller hole. Are these the wheels that you raced at the Rockingham?
Yes.
So as far as you could tell, they performed well.
Well, yes, they did. But it's something that a lot of slot car racers don't pay enough attention to, in my humble opinion, and that is the balance of the components that they're using. And of course, I still hold that a nylon crown gear with plastic wheels on, it assembles an axle that you just cannot beat. And it's there in all the standard scale electric type cars, and you cannot beat it. If you get one that runs true and the gear is molded in a way that's adequate, I cannot build anything up that's lighter. And I just like light and balanced.
speaking of balancing and taking things to the next step, do you bother balancing after you have glued and trued your tires?
Well,
that's going to make a massive difference.
The thing about the race is that we run on handout tires. So it takes time to get them mounted on the wheels, get the wheels on the truer and give them a tickle and chamfer the outside edge a little and things like that we like to do. And there just isn't enough time because we're not pre-preparing. So it's very difficult. And if what I've got that I've brought home after the race goes on the balancer and looks better than the stuff I've brought home in the past, then I will be happy because this will be optimized better than the other teams for certain in many cases. I don't know of anyone else that's doing this at the moment. And obviously it isn't absolutely necessary because we still get beaten even though we've got a slightly better balance on our wheel. It doesn't make the difference. It's still down to the driver and resilience and durability of the car, longevity and the ability to keep it lapping for 6 hours without stopping. Yep. Those things play a much bigger role.
Compounded with the fact that on plastic track, your rear wheels are off the track half the time anyway because of the track surface.
Yep.
That's also true. I'm not going to go with half, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm right. I'm completely exaggerating, but they're not constantly on touch of the track.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But, you know, if we can get things to spin a little nicer, I mean, the armatures themselves, I took the motor out of the car on the Sunday morning before it went into the 6 hour, ran it up on a power supply and washed it through with motor spray, solvent cleaner. I didn't get much out of it, despite the fact that it had done several hours running on Saturday. I was surprised how little actually I thought I got out of it, but it was vibrating in my hand, and I thought this motor doesn't even have the potential to be the best one on the track today. So the motivation, of course, is to invest in several of them so that you find a better one.
Right.
Well, thanks for showing us what you did to the wheels. That's very interesting.
Well, thank you.
Somebody out there who will go, I think I'm going to try that. And I went ahead and I dropped a link into, which will be in the description. I put it in the chat to a really good video of the Rockingham race with lots of race footage, interview with Wayne, where we hear some things that we didn't hear just now, and some other fun bits about the race. So that's a good thing to watch if you've got a minute. So thanks for sharing, Wayne. And
It's about 40. Thanks very much. I was going to promote Pete's video, but you
took your thunder.
Thanks. You're right.
Yeah, Pete did a great video, and I got shared that by Dave.
If anyone wants to search that up, it's Track Fans TV, but like Greg says, the link will be in the description.
Yeah, and I hadn't been subscribed to them before, so subscribe to them now that I've watched that video, and look forward to future videos.
It only takes a minute to watch.
It's a few minutes. The video itself is a few minutes long, but you can always skip.
Yep.
Skip.
No.
I'll admit that I skipped through quite a bit of race footage because I've seen plenty of digital racing, but then I stopped at the other stuff and watched that. And then when Wayne started talking, I had to hit 2 times speed, so it just went faster.
What I would suggest you look at is when the shots of the race management system comes on the screen.
Yeah.
Have a look at the last laps column, and have a look at the Viking Slot Car Club last lap, and you'll see several of them, and they're very, very competitive. And that was a reassurance to myself that what we were doing at the weekend was actually competitive.
Yeah, you guys did a great job. All right, moving on. Alan, your hand is up.
Yes, rolling quickly back to the subject of 3D. I've been pretty much using some files from VLAD, and I also do a lot of scanning with one of my scanners. But about 3 months ago, I actually decided to make an attempt on, shall we say, starting from scratch with a straight line. Did that come through?
Now it has. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going for a F1.
Hopefully the end result's going to be an Alfa Romeo 179. But I started that about 3 months ago and worked on it for probably 200 hours, and then came up with a holy shit, I had enough of this. So I've got to give credit to people like VLAD for what they're doing. This, like I say, this is my first attempt starting with a straight line.
Yeah. That's a lot of work. I mean,
yeah,
Fusion might not be the best choice. I think Vlad was using Mesh Mixer, or not Mesh Mixer, but
SketchUp.
SketchUp, is that what he was using?
I think that's what he's using. Yeah.
But yeah, different programs will have different tools, and you might find that SketchUp allows you to manipulate things, more intuitively. So
I got it on the machine.
There you go. Export that as an STL and fire up SketchUp. See what you can do to it.
Yeah. There we go.
Thanks for showing that. And
yep.
Mike, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Mike.
Go, Michael, go.
He's unmuting himself. No, he doesn't realize. Hello, can you hear us, Mike?
Sorry, my compressor's going on.
Yeah.
Go shut it off. Come back to me.
Okay, I'll do my show and tell. Let's share my screen here, and I got some new toys in the mail. You should be seeing my new NSR Mercedes-AMG GT3, blue and yellow, of course. So we'll do some glamour shots. Make sure I'm doing that. There we go. And the front ISO shot, and the rear ISO shot, and the chassis shot. For whatever reason, this chassis is super shiny. I had a hard time coming up with an angle that you could see the chassis. But going into my blue and yellow collection, and now we have the Porsche 908 Sunoco. Had to get it. More glamour shots. Had to get that engine glamour shot. Love the engine detail on their classics. Typical NSR classics chassis there. And I got some more Ninco Classics. This, of course, is the Corvette. I thought this was just like a road car, but there's there's a driver and a co-driver. I'm surprised there's no number on this car. Does anybody know when this raced and why there would be a driver and a
No,
co-driver?
I think they just put racing figures in a road car.
I mean, that makes sense, but why would they put a co-driver in there? It's like,
Well, they're ordering lunch. It's supposed to be in like a drive-through or something.
there you go. They're going to pick up lunch for the whole crew, and they decided to use the Corvette to do that.
They're on their way to Riverside.
I think they did a Pan America Corvette, Greg, which had a co-driver.
Okay,
So they
when
probably just bolted the interior in rather than do whatever.
that makes a lot more sense.
That's a good
Don't
looking
bother
car.
changing the interior. Just use the same interior into the other car.
Are these drivers or like people figures?
Oh, they're straight up drivers. They've got goggles on and
that makes sense then.
yeah.
What make is it?
These are Ninco. These are the fabled Ninco Classics. I bought this car specifically. I bought 3 more Ninco Classics from the hobbyclassics.net site that I mentioned previously, specifically so that I could get an NC8 motor, which you see here in the Corvette. This particular Corvette, this particular Ninco Classic, is just like the Porsche that I want to race in our upcoming Ninco Classic series, except it came with the NC8 and this adapter for the long can motor bracket in a non-pod chassis. And so I was planning to swap this out for the motor in my in the Porsche that I want to race. I ended up doing a whole lot more pod and motor swapping than I planned to, and ended up, because this car, I was planning to stick an NC1 pod into this car, which I have another Testarossa, and it took an NC1 pod just fine. But for whatever reason, the NC1 pod that I tried to put in here didn't want to let the clamshell body and chassis go together without bending the chassis, which obviously would be that. So this came in the mail as well with a thruster, with the NC8 thruster motor and a pod. And then I got this Jaguar, which also came with the NC8 chassis and with the NC8 podded chassis and pod. This one I managed to cram the NC1 pod in that I had from one of the Ninco rally cars that came with an NC1. So this is the car I ended up eventually getting the motor for my Porsche, and the other cars went back to stock. But I had pretty much every single car taken apart while I was moving pods around, trying to figure out which one would fit into which car properly without bending the chassis. And then the night before last, I'm talking about all this stuff to the guys, and they start whipping out new in-package NC8 motors. And I'm like, bruh, apparently I should have just asked them. I went on the assumption that this stuff was hen's teeth, and no, they were like throwing out NC8s like nobody's business. Whatever, it was a fun thing to do. And when I got my NSR cars, I also got this Me Too's braid that came in a fancy dispenser, and I've already determined that my dispenser is better, because the only way to put back if you pull out that braid, the only way to get it back in there without messing up the braid is to open the whole thing and to coil it back in, so you pull the excess braid back in. Because if you try to push it in, it expands. You can't push it in. So having that pencil hole, by far the best solution, and it's slightly bigger than the 3D printed one. So anyway, that's the end of my show and tell. And Mike, are you ready to try again?
Yes.
Take it away, Mike.
Okay. This is for Garth. If you look at this is the McLaren 720S by Sideways. That's the original wheel set that's on it. Notice that the inserts that are there, the white inserts, are actually pushed out away from the wheel itself. I don't know if you can actually see that a little bit, maybe. Let's see.
So what was happening again?
No, if you look at the insert itself, it protrudes outside the wheel itself.
Oh, okay.
So, and okay, that's the originals on it. This is Garth's printed wheels.
Nice. Those look pretty good.
Yeah, they're really, really nice. And the print came out so that it was perfectly true with them reamed and inserts installed. However, the very, very light, oh, and those wheels, by the way, weigh, the front wheels weigh 1.11 grams and the rears are 1.18 grams.
Is that with the aluminum inserts or without?
That's with the aluminum insert in. Okay. These, however, the 3-spoke wheels did not fare so well. They were very, very difficult to get true. But because they're bendable.
Yeah.
So any force at all bends them. I think possibly what we have to do is extend the center, because I noticed on the 11-spoke ones from the McLaren, the depth of the spokes is thicker than the ones with the 3-spoke wheels.
Yeah.
So
picking up the spokes will make them stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think possibly, and I don't know, it may be that the 4-spoke ones are the limit as far as the way it works. So remains to be seen.
Worth experimenting with.
Yeah.
I'm sure Garth will get right on that and send me an order. Were all of those my prints, or were some of them like shaped?
Those were all your prints, yes.
Okay. Well, it's good to hear.
The original, the 11-spoke ones were from the first set that you sent me.
Okay.
The 3 spokes were from the last set, both in ABS and in PETG. It didn't make any difference as far as the 3-spoke design, which you put them in. They were both difficult to get true. And no matter what I did, I tried a number of different ones to try and get them true. And it was really, really, I could bend them back and get them through, but they were really easily put out of true.
Yeah,
so
I would expect that bulking up those spokes, not necessarily in their width, but just in their height, would substantially increase the strength. The bend, because you're talking about.
I think their depth into the wheel.
You're basically saying that the wheel is bending relative to
Correct.
the axle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thickening up those spokes should do the trick, and the profile will be the same. But looking through the wheel, it should look the same, but they'll be much deeper. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Mike. I got a question for you. The 3-spoker, was your design, and you wanted it to be light. I wonder, did you weigh it? I mean, is it light or?
All right, I've got them right here with the insert in, and they're 0.8 grams.
Okay, so it's pretty light then.
It's pretty light. Yeah. So we could, and the thickening, the difference between, say, the 10 millimeter wheel and the 8 millimeter wheel is only 0.09 grams. So, thickening that will not significantly increase the weight, I think. It also makes me think maybe that the putting a quote air wheel like this is not necessary. Because it will increase the strength of the overall barrel assembly and still be very lightweight.
Yeah, but that did take some weight out of it, having the.
Yeah, it does take some, but I think it'll probably be a wash.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Lightness always takes a back seat to trueness.
Yeah, agreed. So we've known we've gone too far. Now we have to spool it back.
You got to find the limit and then back off from the limit.
Correct.
I'm curious to know, you know, which on the McLaren with the 11-spoke wheel, which one did you like better, the 3D printed or the stock with the
Well,
insert?
from a purely aesthetic standpoint, I like the look of a deep dish wheel, so I prefer that.
Okay, so the 3D printed wheel looks better.
The 3D printed wheel to the other
I
ones.
wonder
Yes.
what other people think about it on.
Well, I mean, the wheels on the McLaren 720, the spokes are not recessed into the hub in real life.
Correct.
They're out on the end like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, you could put chrome Kragers on it and you'd say, geez, they look great, but it's not what the car had. So it depends. There's no right or wrong answer. I prefer them to look like they should look like.
Yeah.
Same time, those sideways ones that don't fit right into the wheel, they stick out beyond the tire, and they the Huracans are the same way. What it is with this sideways.
I guess the real question is, why are they sticking out beyond the tire? And you know, should
Oh,
they?
because
they made a flange around the edge of it, so that when you push it into the wheel, it stops, but that flange sticks out beyond the edge of the wheel, and
On
therefore
purpose?
beyond the edge of the tire, and it starts to look like a rally car wheel.
Yeah.
Which one was lighter, Mike?
I'm just measuring that right now. I just didn't think about that ahead of time. So the original is 2.9 grams. And with the tire,
The original with the tire is 2.9 grams.
yep, like this. Oops, there.
Yep.
And so the with the tire, the 3D printed one is 2.52. So he saved 0.4 of a gram. Okay, that's it for me.
All right. Thanks for the update on the wheels prototype project. And it looks like we're ready to go unless there's somebody else that wants to do a show and tell. We're ready to have hands up for Club Corner or pretty much anything else at this point. So if you have past, present, future, more than one person racing to talk about, now is the time to talk about Club Corner things. I don't see any hands jumping up, so we might just have to open the floor. All right, Mike, you want to talk about club related stuff? Go for it.
Yeah, we had our first volley with the ghost car racing, and there was frustration all around. Unfortunately, I didn't get the video press, so otherwise I could show a little bit of it. But suffice to say, if it would have been his car, he probably would have thrown it across the room. The ghost car was set to run about 2 seconds slower than we were running laps. And there were a number of problems with that, especially because I've set it at random lane changing. So frequently it would go through one of the sets of corners, turn 5 and 6 on my track. And if you went through and it would change lanes right behind you, it would run right through you because it was a magnet car. So it's to be determined how much less I have to do it. It was effectively a block because both of us ran into the problem of having to wait for the car down the straight where I have no lane changer, which I might actually change that. I might put a lane changer in the main straight for that reason, so you could get around it a little bit better. So it was an interesting experiment. We'll do it again. My goal is to have a ghost car that's appropriate for each class that we're running. And in this case, I ran the Alpha, Revo Slot Alpha, the new one, against a SRC Porsche 914 And that ended up to be a little bit of a problem. The times were a little bit better for the 914, but it developed a problem with the guide being a little bit loose. So I've got to fix that. So that was part of the frustration that went along with that, because on a lane change, it would hit the center of it because it would go deep and then dig into and then pop out of the track. So it was an interesting experiment, and I think I want to do it again because it makes for a more realistic program. You've got cars, and we'll see. Eventually I'll try 2 ghost cars and see what happens there.
Mike, why the 2-second kind of penalty, if you will, the ghost car?
Well, if they have since it's a magnet car, it corners faster. So if it's running the same times as the other ones, it'll just blow you off the track.
I got you.
Because there's no proximity availability. So that's the reason for it. So if you set it slower, it becomes a block, but it's still, it won't knock you off the track as much. But as I said, there are some instances where it will. In this particular set of corners, it would do that frequently. So it made you have to think, okay, do I want to pass this guy now, or do I want to pass him later? So a lot of times you'd have to do a little waiting, and sometimes, of course, you'd end up waiting a couple laps if it happened to be. And then, of course, if you've got 3 cars in the way and only 2 lanes, then sometimes the other guy who would come up behind you would get the jump on you and run around you and pass both cars. So it made it much more realistic.
It's like a back marker.
Yeah, it's like lap traffic. When in Formula One, they blue flags, but no blue flags on this one. But it's just like running 2 classes. I've thought about doing that too. We could run, LMPs and then have GT cars running around as lap traffic, because that's a realistic life situation. And that's one of the things I like about digital, is that you can recreate these situations with fuel and with tires and that kind of stuff to make it a more enjoyable experience, not just, the fastest guy wins.
How many ghost cars can you set up, Mike?
Pardon me?
How many ghost cars can you make run at once?
4, if I want, if there's 2 of us racing.
Yeah, so you're using RCS 64?
Yes.
Yeah, so RCS 64, basically each of the 6 IDs can either be a human-controlled car or a pace car. So if you have 3 guys running, then you can have 3 pace cars. If it sounded like you were just doing fixed speed, like you didn't try to set up a recorded lap that was being played back.
No, I figured I'd start out with this and see what happens.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then I forget if you're able to disable. I don't think you can disable lap counting for the pace.
Yes.
Cars.
No, not lap counting. No.
Yeah.
But you can disable the lane changing.
Lane changing. Yeah. So I was thinking, if you wanted to, like if you had 4 guys racing and you wanted to have more than 2 pace cars, you could double up on each of the 2 IDs, or just to have 3 cars or 4 cars on 1 ID, but then the lap counting would be all messed up. So
plus the fact that it's an either or. You can either have the controller in, or disabled, or pace car. You have those 3 choices.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You could only.
Yeah, I was just saying, if you had 5 guys and you still wanted more than 1 pace car, you could do 2 or 3 pace cars programmed to that.
To that ID,
and just let them run around.
Okay, got it now. I didn't understand you at first.
Yeah,
okay.
but I don't think it's possible to disable it.
If he said it's minimum lap time, then even if you had 2 cars on the same ID, he wouldn't get a lap every time through, because if they were so fast they were getting below the minimum lap time, he wouldn't get the lap count.
Yeah, so that might work.
That'd work too.
Right, so a little bit of a workaround. I mean, that could still mean that if they're always close enough where he's always hitting, 1/10 of a second over the minimum lap time, and no racer is doing that kind of lap, the pace cars could come in first, but that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you'd basically have to set it so that the minimum is just shy of what your best lap could possibly be.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
way, there's no way that the pace cars would ever get 2 laps in within 1 lap time. Yeah, I think that's a good workaround. That might actually work if you wanted to do that.
I've done that before.
But yeah, but until you've got 5 guys and you want to have multiple pace cars, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, with 5 guys, the chaos is more than enough. Let me
Yeah,
tell you.
exactly. You don't need pace cars to fill up the grid and make more. Yeah.
Yeah, I could only wish to have 5 or 6 guys because it makes it fun. But
I was going to suggest that you actually set up more than one ghost car, because if you've got 2 drivers driving and 1 ghost car, then it doesn't seem right. It just seems you need 2 at least.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe instead of having it do random lane changes, just do 1 in each lane so that you have to.
As I said, this was the first time in an experiment. So we'll learn and do appropriately. But I did think of that too. If I have 1 in each lane, then, at times you'll have to pass on either one. And I think I'll have to get another lane changer or 2 for the front straight for that reason. So that, there's a long section from the last corner to the first corner that doesn't have a lane changer in it. And that's where the slowdown made a biggest difference. So to be changed. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
But it was fun anyway.
Time for more experimentation. Speaking of Club Corner, we may or may not have somebody who is in a club of somebody who is a regular on this channel. If that person would like to introduce themselves, I will give that person a moment to unmute themselves and introduce themselves, but I will not put them on the spot by naming them. So I believe this is a compatriot of Big Den, as we know him, Dennis from down under Tasmania. So if you race with Big Den and you want to talk on this chat, you're welcome to hit the unmute button and introduce yourself. Otherwise, we will let you go peacefully and simply listen in. All right, so that person is being wise and not wanting to have a recording of their activities on the internet. So we will move on. And I don't see any more Club Corner hands up. Yeah, go ahead, John.
This isn't Club Corner, but it's going back to something.
Yeah, I was going to say, at this point, no more Club Corner, so the floor is open. Circle back on anything, whatever. Go ahead.
This goes back to what Dennis was talking about earlier with the front tires, putting the figuring out. So what I did while we've been talking is I raised my front tires on my
Scale
auto, put the front tires up so they're not touching, and boy, did it make a big difference. It's like all of a sudden, it's just with that, there's no wobble at all. It's just the flag and the rear tires. Got to go back and rethink my whole setup of cars now. It was eye-opening, as you said.
Yeah, it can make a surprisingly big difference. So yeah, lots more car tuning in your future. Frank's got his hand up. Did you want to talk about club stuff, Frank, or do you want to just throw something out?
Well, hello there. Yeah, Club Corner. Probably everybody knows this already, but the big race at Electric Range this weekend, the 2021 USA Nationals slotted, is tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. As of yesterday, when I was there were 62 signups. So he's not quite at the 72 that he wanted to get to, but wow, 62 people showing up, and from all over the country.
That's going to be televised, isn't it?
It'll be streamed live
on YouTube.
Yeah, it'll be streamed live on the Electric Dreams website. So you can watch all the boring stuff when nobody's doing anything and watch the qualifying. Actually, tomorrow I don't think it will be, because qualifying's on Saturday and Sunday is the actual.
Friday, tomorrow's just a regular day. Friday's practice, and then Saturday is qualifying, and Sunday morning we start with heats, and with 60 guys, there'll be probably 10 qualifying heats, and then the top 12 guys will go into 2 semifinals, and the top 6 out of that will go into a final. The qualifiers, each race is 6 lanes, 3 minutes a lane. The semis are also 6 lanes, 3 minutes a lane, and the final event is 5 minutes a lane. So that final event will be 4:30, 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon Pacific time, I would think, by then. But yeah, certainly Saturday and Sunday will be televised. Will be on YouTube on the Electric Dreams channel. You can get to it from the Electric Dreams website.
What's really cool. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say to John, if he really wants some action, just let me know, and I'll instigate a fight or two, and we can get something going there. I know I'm pretty sure there will be a couple of guys that we can rev up enough that they will sort of forget about their self-control and go nuts. Yeah, there's always somebody like
not
that
Mr.
around.
Sampson, though. Not Mr. Sampson, though. He's always
I'll
cool,
be the
calm and collected.
stirrer. I'll just stir it up. That's all.
You guys care
No, I'm kidding now.
you guys care to disclose your entries and how you have them set up?
Set up, maybe not. He was showing off his entry last week. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's
All
what
right, Frank's another one of the wussies that has decided to run the biggest, longest.
I didn't hear that.
Frank's another one of the wussies that has decided to set up the biggest, longest, widest car.
Hey, it was
available.
given to me. What can I say?
All right. Anyway, a
What's
lot of
really
people have said that you won't get anywhere without a Jaguar. I will help to hopefully prove that
Prove
that's
us
not
wrong.
exactly the case. But Dewan, the cars are notably faster than when we ran that Enduro last year for the Group Cs. The guys have found probably half a second a lap with newer design, newer tires and different gearing and things like that.
That's not a long track. Half a second on that track.
Well, they've gone from 6.5s down to 6.1s or 6.5 or 6.0s. Some of the really fast guys are down at 6.0s and 5.9s. Whether they can do that for a whole race or not, I don't know. But there have been some down there. The big secret is, as always, in tires. And most of the guys are using what Frank had on the back of his car, which is the wheels and tires off of an NSR Formula One, with the wheels probably reamed out so that they fit the slotted axle. We're running 923 gear ratios. The tires are cut down to about 700 thousandths or 17.8 millimeters. So there's about 30 thousandths clearance under the car. And that allows the motor to provide a little bit, not very much, but a little bit of, but it seems a significant amount of attraction to the braid. So all of that's been going on, and that's part of the reason why the cars are so quick.
And those are all with long cans, Dennis, or they're all?
No, they're all short. They're short can, just the regular slotted
M6
short can
okay.
motor.
Yeah.
M16s.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably get 7 or 8 grams of downforce out of
Yeah.
that if you run them low enough.
I've heard 10, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't
well,
checked it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a little bit, but 7 grams of downforce on a 70-gram car is 10%.
Well, that's right. 10% of your, and that's free weight too.
It's free weight, yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And guys are tuning and practicing like crazy, all except me.
Well, you'll be there tomorrow, won't you?
I'll be there tomorrow, but I work there tomorrow. So
I was just going to say, you'll be working. What else is going on is that Marco has set up Friday night. It's going to be people that show up on Friday, which I'm not able to. He's going to be talking for a couple of hours Friday evening. So the people that signed up for that will be able to listen to him talk about slotted and other things, and probably have his brain picked. Saturday afternoon, there are two sessions of the museum. I believe Philippe Espinay is going to be doing two tours, 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So I thought that was really cool that Mark was, set that up for all of us as well.
I really want to
Yep,
make
so
that.
if there's anybody who has specific questions for Maurizio for the Friday night meet and greet, I'm going to be there. So if you want to know what's going on, or if you have a question to ask, let me know. I can ask it for you and let you know afterwards.
I mean, I'm kind of curious about why they stopped working with Scholastic USA for their distribution, but he probably can't actually answer that. So worth
He
asking.
may not want to.
Yeah.
Certainly not in out in the open.
Yeah, not a public setting. But Marco's got it, and I know he's happy about getting that distribution.
For sure.
No, but don't forget
job.
that distribution really only affects the those hobby stores and dealers who order in small quantities.
Right.
The guys who are ordering cases of cars at a time will probably continue to do what I think they're doing right now, which is getting them direct from slotted in Italy.
Hey, Dennis, what is their relationship to Polycar?
They own it.
Polycar is a subsidiary
I
company
see.
of Galileo Engineering. So
Okay.
it's fully owned by Maurizio and his partners.
Yeah. So Galileo Engineering and then Slotted and Polycar.
Right.
Got it.
And he did that because he needed another brand in order to get around some of the licensing issues with Ferrari.
Yeah.
That because Ferrari have an exclusive with Carrera, and so I think he found a way around that, and part of that involved Polycar.
And that's why the Polycar 512 is not labeled as a Ferrari.
Correct.
It's labeled
And why it doesn't arrive with any Ferrari badges on it.
Right.
It's a red sports car.
Yep.
Right.
Good enough for me.
Which that prize has been shipped out to our winner from last time. So look forward to hearing his impressions on that. Somebody who's new to slot cars, apparently. He's been into various other hobbies and found the channel and
cool
to win, and now he's going to get a really nice slot car. Speaking of that particular car, Dennis, you said earlier that you had to do barely anything to that car, and it was performing really well on your track.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did the stock things that I always do to the cars.
Yeah.
I glued and I modified the rear wheel so that I could put some foam inserts inside the tires. I put a set of 1172 N22s on the back, which is a tire that runs very well on my track. And I trued and reduced the diameter of the fronts ever so slightly, and I also reduced the width of them. So I cut the tire back so that they're level. It's level with the wheel front, back, and both sides. And I reduced the diameter a little because of the problem that everybody was having with the way it was set, and touching the inside of the body. Yeah. But other than that, and just loosening off the pod screws a tad and the body screws, it runs really nice. It's very sweet.
I of course pre-ordered the Sunoco livery. I'm looking forward to driving that car.
I wonder why.
I was wondering if you think, because you know how the Ferrari F40 stood out from the GTs, I'm wondering if the 512 will stand out from the classics.
No, I don't think it will stand out that much. It's very competitive with all the others. But I think that the Polycar P4s, for example, are very close. My slotted McLaren MADs and GT40s and so on run very, very similar times. So I don't think so.
I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be like that new Jaguar, for example, in the Group C's. You know, it's such a game changer that you can't get anywhere if you don't have one.
Yeah, the one that Frank was showing off.
Yeah, do you hear that, Frank?
Sorry, excuse me. Hey, Dennis said it first. Anywho, floor is still open. You got 40 minutes. Whatever slot related stuff you guys want to talk about, now's the time.
Even though Maurizio is not going to probably comment on the distribution thing, if you're Scale Electrics USA and you end up selling more Scale Electrics bits or more slotted bits and more slotted cars than you do Scale Electrics USA cars, and you're the CEO, you may very well want to say, we're going to slow down on the amount we're ordering from slotted bits and pieces, which causes some out of stocks, which have happened in the past. Obviously, Maurizio wouldn't be too happy about that because there's a void for his part. So he may have decided to choose another distributor.
Hypothetically.
Very hypothetically.
And if you're someone out in the market who's looking for parts and you can't get them because they weren't in stock at the distributors, you might also be pretty happy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that has
Again, hypothetically and alleged.
Hypothetically,
yes.
Allegedly. No, that makes a lot of sense.
So we won't go out on the ledge about this, John, but we'll.
Mr. Weber's holding up his hand.
Actually, Bill was.
Yeah, he's got his hand up, but I think Mr. Weber's has been trying to get our attention.
I like the background on John's.
You're gonna have to talk nice and loud, John, because your microphone is not good.
It's muted.
No, he's not.
Not plugged in.
Ratio's talk. I guess it's Thursday night. The talk he's giving Thursday. Is that going to be streamed?
Probably not. Are they going to stream Maurizio's?
The Friday night Maurizio thing? It's possible, but I don't know for certain. I can check about that and suggest to Marco that if he wasn't thinking of streaming it, it would be a good idea to stream it.
That would be, especially if comments, the live stream comments are turned on, then people could ask live comments if they need any.
At the very least, they should record it.
At the very least,
I would hope so.
It's a forum for those present, isn't it?
He probably will, because I mean, he did a whole interview with Andrea Noviello from NSR, but then of course that was a sit-down interview, and that was recorded and put out there. But whether he's going to do the meet and greet with Maurizio or not, I don't know. But I'll check.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. All right, Bill, what's up? You're not muted, but we can't hear you. So either your microphone is not plugged in or something's going on. All right, we'll talk about something else for a little while. Mr. Weber, I wanna kind of embarrass you a little bit. When you're holding up stuff, that virtual background completely ruins it. So if you want to hold something up, you got to turn off the virtual background, because I would love to see whatever you were holding up earlier, because I saw you, trying to get something in the camera. But nobody could see it because the virtual background was covering it up. But you love your virtual backgrounds. I know that. You got some great pictures to show off. All right, Phil. Hey, Phil's got his camera on, but your microphone, apparently, according to Zoom, is not connected. So make sure you click on the little microphone that says connect to audio. No, microphone's not working. All right. Do you know sign language? Because I don't. That's not going to help at all. But Phil is the person I was going to embarrass earlier. He's the one who races with Big Den, right, Phil?
We can kind of hear Bill, but it's very low.
Well, maybe we'll try again. Hopefully Phil gets his microphone things figured out and we can talk to him next week. Or maybe at the end of, no, he's not going to come back on. He's like, screw you guys, forget it, not happening.
Hey, Greg,
I can't read lips either. Sorry, Phil.
The Electric Dream site says that on Friday night, that is a track call, is what they're calling it. So is that a call-in? Track call live with Maurizio Ferrari.
I guess they're calling it they're calling the chat session with Mauricio track call. Is that on their schedule of things to be televised?
Yeah, 8/12.
Awesome.
5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and I take it that's specific time.
I would imagine
Specifically specific.
Specific time, yeah. Well, I look forward to watching that, that's for sure. I'll try to remember to drop a link to Electric Dreams in the comments here. Electric Dreams link. There we go. That's my reminder. Floor's still open. We can always end early. We don't need to make you guys try to talk for no reason. Does anybody have anything slot related they'd like to ask, talk, tell, show, anything? If not,
Hey, has anybody ever run on Scale Auto track? I just saw it today. I was poking around on Professor Motor. You know, the Scale Auto makes a track system, and I was just kind of curious if anybody's ever run on it.
No.
I have not. I hope to.
What's Alan's track? The track that Alan Smith has.
Alan's tracks are all wood tracks. He's not put out a Scale Auto track, but I'm thinking at some point.
Scale Auto don't have a non-wood. I thought Scale Auto's tracks were all wood.
I think what Brian's talking about is, Scale Auto's coming out with something that's very much like the Polycar track.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I was under the assumption that they were private labeling that from Ninco.
No, this stuff is it's got a 90 millimeter slot spacing. They do actually make an adapter where you can hook it to Carrera, and they have radius out through R5 now, and are plan on including an R6. They sell it on Professor Motor. It's kind of where I saw it. I was poking around on there today and saw Scale Auto track. Their straights are 400 millimeters in length. And I think it's just a millimeter or so wider than a Carrera. And prices seem to run just a little bit less than Carrera. So I was just curious if anybody had ever run it.
Didn't they just host an enduro race where they've got two layouts multiplied with one another on their own track system in Italy?
Well, didn't they also have a display track at Gaydon?
On their website, they had some displays. They talked about some championship or something they ran, I think, in Spain, which is where they're based out of, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it looks pretty nice. It looked like they had a 10-lane track set up, 10 or 12-lane track set up, pretty large scale. It just looked interesting to me, and I was, it's just slightly cheaper than Carrera track, with a lot more track pieces, curve radiuses. And I was just curious if any. I guess it's been out now for a couple of years, about 2 years. Based on their website, what their timeline was for introducing. I think it came out in 2019.
I remember seeing it a while ago, but I don't think it came to the States 2 years ago. But I haven't run on Polycar yet either. So one of these days I got to get me some track time on some Polycar and some Scale Auto. I'm sure Alan has both. He just, all of his tracks are wood tracks. He doesn't set up a plastic track. So.
The Scale Auto stuff was all initially designed in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you have an inside line on that, but you've never raced on it.
The design work most of the design work was done by Ernie Mazzetti of MR Slot Car. There were some issues with Scale Auto, and halfway through the design consulting and design stopped. So I've seen tons of drawings of it. I've held some prototype pieces in my hand. I've never put a car on it. No.
Hey, Chris, I've got a question for you. Dave Kennedy the other day was saying that there are no U.S. manufacturers of slot cars. And isn't MR Slot Car in the U.S.? And does he make?
Nope, Toronto.
He's in Toronto. Okay, never mind. That's why the guy said it was designed in Toronto, because he.
Kanakistan.
Toronto's in Canada, thank God.
But you get a free puck with every car.
Yeah.
We agree, Chris. We agree. Thank God.
All right. Well, Go ahead.
Looked like
we
Bill may have
also-
fixed his microphone.
We also embrace the build a wall concept, except we don't think the wall should be south of the states. We think should be north of the states.
Yeah, between the states and Canada. Yeah.
Wait, Tom, we built one. Everyone just ignores it.
Yeah.
Bill Royal has his hand back up, Greg.
Yeah, you want to give it another try, Bill?
Do you hear me now?
Yay!
There he
That's
is.
embarrassing. I should know better than to test that, but I've been so bored of the last.
Noob. No, just kidding.
I've had COVID. I got tired. I was so bored. I literally I tore apart my whole garage, rearranged everything, well, except for the track. That stayed exactly where it was. And then I decided that wasn't enough. I'd redo my PC. So apparently I stepped in a little, but this is just a real quick share, just a progress or in progress. One of the things I'm working on, I had shown the snack bar. I spent a little more time. I wanted to do some sort of like a movie theater or projection screen, kind of one of the old drive-in screens. And so I've worked on the first part of that, or at least it's the first draft, probably last draft. Let's see. I don't know if you could see. Oh, there we go. Right there.
That looks legit.
So, you see that?
That looks
film
like a
showing.
real movie drive-in screen. That's awesome.
This is everything I've ever seen of an old movie theater screen, and at least it dates me definitely. And then on the back, I had some extra space here, so I have got a stack of lumber down at the bottom, and then a couple of shelves, and some extra framing and that sort of thing, or not shelves, but basically I figure I'll put some kids up here, some models, kids, feet hanging off the edge or something like that.
Yeah, some vines growing up.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, some vines.
Weeds and vines growing up on it.
If it's one from Los Angeles, you have graffiti on the back of it too.
I will probably get there, but that's a bigger challenge that I'm hiding from right now is the airbrush. I still have not been able to get that working right.
No, label paper. Get some label, not label
Or
paper.
just use a brush. It'll look more like graffiti.
Oh yeah.
Get some of that. Get some of the
definitely
the inkjet paper that is like made for like transfers like to cars. Yeah. We would do model, but it doesn't matter if it looks crappy because it's going to be graffiti, right? So you still just transfer it. It doesn't need to be super awesome and nice like on a car. When you transfer it to the back of that, it'll look like real legit graffiti.
Yeah, you're right. And I have a packet of it. I haven't even touched. I should. Yeah, good idea. Thank you. And it's a fun exercise.
Well, now I'll have to make a figure with a spray can for you.
Oh yeah, and I was trying to understand because I really don't like the drudgery of putting on each one of those boards individually is literally I look at that and I'm like, nah, this sucks. But it actually is pretty calming. And the only thing that I can put it to is I was telling Frank Peter, it's like bonsai for the Japanese, and having worked in that company for a long time, or NEC for a long time, you kind of, I guess you start getting some kind of similarities there, and this is my bonsai.
You get into this Zen focus where it's just it's good.
Yeah.
You got a new name now, Bill. It's Bonsai Bill.
I'll take it. That works. It's a lot better than some of the other things I've been called. So
that's a great idea to have bonsai trees on like you have real trees on a layout. That'd be awesome.
Oh, see, why are you doing this, John? That's now gonna have to figure that out. No, I'm just kidding.
I would never do that. I'm a brown thumb. I cannot keep anything alive. I've got basil that dies on me. Come on, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill a bonsai tree on my layout.
You guys, we were just talking about this a second ago, but Home Racing World has a whole article on the new scale auto track system.
Oh, yeah?
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch over because that's all I got to show for now. So thank you.
Oh, that's the
that's found on Facebook.
Yeah.
And this was in Madrid in the past couple of weeks.
So, sorry, that's all Scale Auto track?
Yeah.
I believe it is. It was the Scale Auto's own event. And I think you can see that the straights are longer pieces.
Their straights are 400 millimeters.
I mean, it's hard to. Okay, there. Oh yeah, that's pretty long.
They called it master slot though.
Yeah, 400 is pretty long.
And that's what I saw. That was the first time I think I've seen Scale Auto track assembled, or what it looks like and color it is. And
I was gonna say the color is the biggest. The thing that jumps out at you is that it's gray, not black.
yeah,
Some of that might be lighting. The pictures on the website show it as more black. And I actually saw a video where the guy was using the adapter for Carrera. Because that was one of the other selling points, is that you could integrate, for example, Scale Auto's R1 turn into a Carrera layout, and you could make tighter layouts in smaller spaces with their curve radiuses.
Yeah. But it looked in the pictures that you were talking about, it looked like it was darker, like blackish, or rather than gray.
It didn't look as gray as it does in the photo. And the interesting thing is, like, I think on Professor Motor, a box of 4 straights was $45. So I mean, it's running on par or slightly cheaper in some cases than the Carrera. For example, if you buy a box of curves, it's always 4 curves. It's always a 180. So it's, you know, I just thought it was interesting. I just didn't know if anybody had ever run on it.
Yeah. And so it looks like a fairly dark gray, maybe. Yep. So yeah, the light.
Yeah, you'll get an idea at Home Racing World of color.
I was trying to find that just now. Can you post a link in the chat, because I'm on the Home Racing World site. Where do I look? Articles?
Scale Auto track system. I put it up in the main thing, Scale Auto track, and it took me there.
Yeah, I think I saw that today, and I think it's more of just information published from Scale Auto. I don't think it's actually anybody. They're not actually reviewing the track. They don't say
you're right.
It's just describing the system.
Yeah.
And it looks like it started coming out in 2018. That's what
when it was announced.
Yeah.
When
So
it was
about
announced.
2019, 2020 is when they
Here's a silly question. Is it just track, or does it come in sets like any other track manufacturer?
I've not seen sets.
I have not either.
I mean, even Polycar is just the basic BRZ drift set. That's they're not big into sets. The only reason to do a set is to kind of cut into that market.
Don't make money selling sets.
Yeah.
So a standard Carrera straightaway is 345 millimeters.
Right.
Straightaway piece. So these are 400.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what they advertise, 400.
All right, Phil's got his hand up. What you want to talk about, Phil? Frank, I assume you're done. Was there something else?
No, I just real quick, since we have a little bit of time, I was wanting to, I don't know if y'all can see that or not.
Yeah, we can see.
So that is a 1-to-1 Austin Healey 104 from 1956. And I am in the midst of creating a replica in a slot car.
Why don't you just buy that one?
Yeah. Actually, his family has owned it since 1956. He's 78 and he's racing it.
And it won't fit on this track.
That too. And this will be the car itself.
What body shell are you using, Frank?
It's from AA Bodies, UK. It's a pretty small one. This is one that I did for myself because I had one of these. You can see the gray hair kind of matches. I had one of these in high school. And so that one's going to be the same color. And I was able to track down different decal sets to get all the decals that are on it. So it won't be exact, but it's going to be pretty close. And the guy's really jazzed.
Frank, show that car again.
Which one?
The one you just held up.
Well, this one?
Yeah, it looks like George Papard driving.
Looks like what?
George Papard driving.
It does, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Great, great. You got a car
Look at
driven
it
by
does.
Banachek.
Got a nice
This
chassis.
one I did a brass chassis, but the one I'm making for him,
It's nice.
did a Penelope Pit Lane PCS chassis.
You're from the US, just decals.
Decals. Decals, not decals.
You're from the US. it's
Decals or decals. It's not stickers.
Everybody wants to be Canadian. Come on,
There you
Deckle.
go, John. You're right.
Canadian. All right, Phil, your turn.
All right, well, I really didn't have much, guys. I just had been gone for so long that I thought I'd go, okay, so I have been collecting a few cars here. I'll switch cameras here. Let's see if that switches me out.
Have you not started work in the new basement, Phil?
What's that? I'll start that next.
Ah,
I'm actually looking forward to that. This thing is supposed to be looking at my new camera.
All I've got is okay, here we go.
You didn't get a camera from Chris by chance, did you?
Being slow.
It says the host lost my video for everyone. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
we'll go that way. No problem. Let's just do this real quick. Anyhow, the idea is this: I've just been buying slot cars like crazy. And so I've got something on the order of about 15 or 20 new cars. And we'll just go to none. So just in case, John, I'll start out with this because this will get boring. You know what that is, John?
Yep.
That's Kit. You know what Kit is?
We all know who he is, or at least I do.
John Kit, right?
Yeah, they had to spell it with 2 T's or else I would have sued.
Yeah, probably so. There was all to get off that John Kit trademark. So I've been buying crap like crazy. This is the Scale Electric's club car. Some of these are still in plastic just because, hey, what happened? How did I get a background back again? That was supposed to not happen. All right, let's close that setting.
I actually prefer the other background.
Yeah, so I've been buying cars like stupid.
We don't want to see your underwear.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
All right, so basically, there's a pile of crap here. There's a box full of crap over here that I bought. That bottom one is full of cars that I haven't even taken out of the packaging yet. And I got these poly cars because they got slower engines or motors in them. And I'm going to solder in a Scale Electric's digital chip this weekend and see if I can just make some permanently made digital cars. Those cars aren't set up for DPR right off the jump. So it'll give me something to mess around with, but I got those and I got like 8 Corvette C8s, 4 of the each. There's only 2 liveries from Scale Electrics. I got 4 of each from Scale Electric. I got 2 each from Carrera in the Corvette C8s. Don't ask me why, I just got excited by them. So I'm just dinking around, guys. In case you were wondering, like, what happened to Phil? He didn't get bored with slot cars. He's just been busy doing other stuff. But
It looks like you were on a road trip with Brian to St. Louis or something.
yeah, well, I was actually thinking to myself, that might be a good place for us to converge in one spot. Not exactly blue and yellow there, Greg, but pretty close. I actually bought 4 of these, and I tried to mate them up with some BMW minis so that I could have some chase scenes from the Italian Job, stuff like that. So I've got some plans to mess around with that, which would take me to Club Corner, where I'd like to go out to our club track. And when we have our student tours, put them in a Italian Job race and see if I can get them to start identifying with some stuff that they might then go home and watch the movie and probably get grounded or something. But right after that, it'll be fun. So anyway, that's it, guys. Nothing else happening. Love to see over here.
I'd love to live vicariously through other people's hauls from the mail and from other stuff. And apparently Phil wants to give it a go. I see a microphone. You want to unmute yourself and address the crowd? Yeah, you're still muted. Let's see if this will help.
Can you hear me this time?
Awesome. We are good to go, sir.
Not a problem. I was on the old iPad, and then I tried the laptop, and that's obviously the microphone's not working. So a couple of you will know me from around some of the forums over the years. I know Dennis certainly will. He's had a few cars out here. Then I've run some proxy races over the years. Very quick intro because we're nearly out of time, but I've been around slots since the 60s, 24th, 32nd. Got back into it about 25 years ago with some club racing down here, and we built some 30-second tracks, or I built a couple of 30-second tracks. I'm sort of, as Dennis will tell you, sort of driving force, I suppose, behind Hobart Miniature Car Club down here in Hobart. We run once a week, every Tuesday night here. Our attendees are about, anywhere between 10 and 13 guys every Tuesday night, all on routed wooden tracks. Mine's about the biggest, that's a 66-footer. But we had 6 or 7 tracks in the cycle at one stage, but with COVID and a few shutdowns and people dropping off to other things, we're now back to 3 tracks at the moment. But it's quite a good group down here. As well as that, I've done a bit of resin casting over the time. Yes, John. I've bought and traded with John a bit, and a few others as well over the time. And now I'm getting back into 3D printing, and thanks to Vlad for his files that he keeps sending down to me all the time. And I've just messaged him to tell him I've got an NSR Formula One down here if he wants a loan of it to get into those bodies. So I hope he can do that. So, but I'll join in again in a fortnight, and hopefully I'll try and get something prepared and some video and that of the setup out here.
Well, it's good to finally meet you face to face, Phil.
Yes, it is, John. Over the years, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You and Dennis as well. Because Dennis, I think it was about 15 years ago, Dennis sent some proxy cars down here over the time. And as some of you will know, I've been involved with proxy racing for over 20 years. And this is the first year that I haven't been involved with any proxy racing. And that's mainly due to COVID and a bit of a shutdown. But I've run a few proxies over the years, some worldwide proxies, and been involved with quite a lot around the world. Rally proxies and all sorts of things there. So I'll prepare something for next fortnight. Next week's a bit early in the morning. I'm not like Vlad. I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock Australian time. And you might worry with the connection with Big Den. Den comes down here and about every 4 to 6 weeks races with us on a Tuesday night, and then tends to bring a few beers in, and we sit here until 2 or 3 o'clock of the morning.
Well, I got to ask Phil. You know, the Den looks pretty big on camera. Is he that big in reality?
Bigger. Den's had a lot of health issues. I've known Den since we were kids together, when we used to race things called flexi cars. Yeah, yes, he's a big man, that's for sure. So as I said, I'll prepare something for next fortnight and give you a bit of a presentation, all being well. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and look forward to seeing you.
Not a problem, Greg. Thank you for hosting this, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good to
Nice
join
to meet
you.
you.
I've been watching for quite a while on YouTube, so it's good to finally get it up on the.
Oh, so you're the one then? Okay, cool.
Yes, skulking in the background, John.
It's okay. You can stop reloading every video in order to get that view count up. It's okay. You don't need.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, good stuff. Still got 10 minutes left. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about, ask about, show about, tell about? What you holding up there, Alan? Your background's messing it up.
I'm going to clear it out.
Look, that looks like an Austin Healey by Ninco.
Ninco Classic, yep.
That was my question. I had no idea. I know it said Ninco on the motor, but I had no idea that it was a classic.
Yeah, show us the
Ninco Austin Healey 3000.
Yeah, now unblur.
Can't see it, Alan. Your background is really messing it up.
Once you turn on, there we go. Okay, now show us the
There
chassis.
it is.
Show us the
But
underside.
But it doesn't have the original tires and rims, of course.
They're around here someplace, probably.
Show us the bottom.
Show us the bottom.
There
Yep.
we go.
You guys like bottoms, huh?
Got that dang NC2 in
we
there.
sure do.
Yeah, that's a little bit faster of a motor than what we usually talk about, but it's still a good car. Still a fun. Oh, they changed the gear too. Oh, that's been all kinds of modded.
That's got slotted gear on it.
It's got a whole slotted rear end on it.
It sure looks like it. Wouldn't be legal in our club.
Heck no, yeah.
I just remember picking this up at a slot car show years ago.
That's a gorgeous body and a chassis ready for a proper remake over into its original status.
Right.
Okay. As a properly slow car with narrow wheels.
Thank you, Brad.
Looks like those tires stick out about 3 or 4 millimeters each side.
Oh yeah, that's
That was some special race.
yeah. That person got that car and was like, I can make it go faster.
It looks more like the Sterling, which was the kit car of the 3000 than an actual 3000.
Gorgeous body though.
Yeah, it doesn't have a scratch on it, no box, but I was just curious if it was considered a classic or not.
Yes.
Technically, yes, but not legal in most Ninco Classic racing series.
Right. And with an NC2 and a 28 tooth crown, it's not going to be very quick.
What's an NC2 run at?
Oh, they're not quick at all, but an FK 180 geared with like 9 to 28 over 3 to 1, that's not going to be too quick.
I think the NC2 is like 14,000, but when you
says,
stop and let go of the brakes, that thing will coast for like 6 feet.
Oh, no brakes.
It has
Stamped
nothing.
on the motor is 14.8 volt, 18,100 RPM at 160 milliamps.
Right, at 14.8 volts.
At 14, yeah. Okay, so not a fast motor and not gearing that will help, but those wheels and tires just make it a completely different car. It's just
Well, we'll have to see if we can't get it back into the stock configuration, whatever that is.
I posted some 3D printable wheels that meet the spec. Next up is tires. I believe BRM makes a stock replacement tire.
Yes, they do.
The next step would be you'll probably have to shave the axle down because those axles are going to be way too long for a stock type wheel. But otherwise, you could probably get it pretty close for a few bucks.
Okay. It's a pretty body.
It is.
It is. In our club, Greg, we have to use original Ninco tires.
And that's what we're running our series at is original Ninco. One of the guys, and I'm slowly regretting nominating Ninco Classics because multiple guys have been, oh, Greg, can we do this? I'm like, no, you're missing the point of this class. The point of this class is to race some slow ass non-performing cars that slide and wobble and roll over unless you drive them right. That's this class. But no, they're all, they saw like one of the cars that technically meets the spec has wider rear wheels. I forget what car it was, but they're like, "Ooh, I want to get that car." I'm like,
AC Cobra has wider wheels.
I was just going to say that the Cobra has the wider rear wheels.
Yeah. So, but I'm like, come on. No, we're not going to change to BRM tires just because you can get new BRM tires. The Ninco tires last for freaking ever. I have not seen a Ninco Classic with bad tires. It's amazing.
Stephen Farr Jones has a Annie Mini with a Ninco chassis with tires that are 12 years old, and it still races very competitively.
Yeah, it's amazing. Whatever rubber they used needs to be needs to be used again. But yeah,
definitely not Carrera.
Yeah, no, it'll still be fun. But yeah, I'm having to fight off all the can we do this? Can we do that crap? No, literally the specs is bone stock, bone stock, bone stock, bone stock, bone stock, bone stock. No weight, no truing. If it's got a magnet, take it out. That's it. That's all. That's nothing else.
Right.
Well, bring the Corvette or the Jaguar if you're in a race like that. Those are the two winners.
I mean, the cars that I show and telled earlier, they're pretty much all going up for sale. The only reason I bought that, because Frank, you recommended I talk to Mr. Farr Jones, and
right.
I did. And he was very helpful in he sent me the link to the page that has all of the Ninco Classics with what motor they came with and all that kind of stuff. So that helped me choose which cars to buy that I knew came with NC8 motors. But he did not have any spare motors that he was willing to let go. And
can you share that link if you don't mind, please, on the Ninco thing? Because I'm interested in that.
Sure, I'll do that.
Thanks.
And
Yeah,
somebody
Classics has some great deals.
Somebody dropped Ninco Classic link into the chat for me. The list is fantastic. Completely, like everything you need to know about Ninco. If you're wanting to run a Ninco Classic series, in fact, the page was basically written for his club, specs, right? So it's all there. He even gave me more resources for finding NC1 replacements than we had talked about before, but there's no NC8 replacements. There just aren't. And so my option was to find an NC8 somewhere.
Can you he allowed the Predator 12.5.
But aren't those the same form factor as NC1s?
They're actually they're a little bit slower, just a little more torque.
No, but the shape of the motor is completely different. And the car that I wanted to run,
I put them in mine.
It's completely different.
I've got it in mine
from an NC8, So the motor you're talking about is the same as an NC1.
Yes. You're right.
NC8 is that.
Then you have to have NC1 adapters if it's that kind of car.
Exactly. If the car takes it. So the Porsche that I want to drive would only take that format of. It didn't have a pod. It didn't use adapters. It would only take that kind of motor.
Which car are you talking about, Greg?
It's like
Porsche 550 Spider.
Yeah, it's the. I'll bring up my picture of it. Where's my picture?
Can you take the guts out of the one motor and put it in the other motor? I'm looking at 3
of them.
No, I would not even venture to do that. But I'll dig up the picture of it so you can see exactly, because I showed this off a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I've never tried to race a 550. They're just too pretty. They're shelf queens for me.
No shelf queens.
Oh, I do. I've got at least 400 of them here. I race 50 or 60 cars.
Right, what the hell did I start, John?
I'll share my screen. Oh, you didn't start anything.
Okay.
So this is the car I want to race.
Okay.
It does not have a pod.
Right.
Okay? That motor is different than an NC1.
Right.
Correct. But there are NC1 adapters to put an NC1 in that. But
no, there aren't.
You really want an NC8.
You're thinking of the NC1 like I showed earlier. I don't think you were actually on when I showed it. So let me exit and we'll go back to the top of this to what I showed off earlier. Actually, I'm right here. So these are the cars I bought in order to make what I need to have happen, right?
Right.
So this is what you're thinking of.
And that should fit in and find.
No, because the pod of the car that I just showed.
No, that's an NC8. But there's another adapter, Greg. Because I've got NC1.
There's no room for an adapter. Literally, I had to take the adapters off of one of these NC8s in order to fit it into the spot of the NC1.
Right.
What kind of adapter is going to fit into the same amount of space that an NC1 takes up?
It doesn't exist.
There's no room. There's no room for an adapter. You're thinking of this, where you can stick an NC1 or an NC8 into a long.
Into this. Yeah, you're right. Because the NC8 is longer. I always.
What is that?
That's filling. Tastes great.
Is that an FC or is that a F? It's like a FC 130 or something, or what is it?
NC1s are FC 130s.
FC 130.
The rest of them are FK 130s.
FK 130. That's the difference.
130 is like the minimum, the millimeters of their length or some shit like that, right?
It's that plastic end bell.
Yeah, Michael, you're showing a monogram. That's a monogram.
That's a front engine Porsche.
Yeah, because Monogram made it to scale, and they put an S can in it and made it front motor for some.
That was another one of the other guys.
Beautiful body.
One of the other guys had a bunch of those MRRC front motor NC1 cars, and he's like, "Can I race these?" I'm like, "You don't want to." What in the world? Oh, that's one of their earlier. That's like, what kind of car is that, John?
That's an older Ninco.
ETM. Okay, yeah.
Okay, Greg.
Yes, sir.
What's in this car?
Let me spotlight it so I can see it better. That's an NC8.
That's what car it is.
Oh, there are other models of that car that have different motor pod configurations.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, there's one
So
that
you have one of the other ones.
I have one of the other ones. Apparently, it's later in the line, and they decided, well, we're not going to bother with this pod crap anymore. We'll just design this chassis to take an NC, the FK 130s or whatever the hell, and only that.
Because all three of my 550s will fit an NC8.
Trust me, I explored all options. The only other option would have been to physically modify the chassis of that car.
That doesn't work.
Which is not allowed anyways.
You're right.
Well, we've gone way past our 2 hours with this long-winded, quote unquote.
I was having fun, man.
But
nice
hey,
to see you all again.
We can keep chatting. I'm going to hit the stop button. Everybody wave bye, and we'll keep chatting. Bye.